IKEA sells you a table in a cardboard box. You find the box. You drag it off a warehouse shelf. You transport it home. You carry it upstairs. Then you spend Saturday afternoon turning 30 loose parts into one table. And when you finally tighten the last screw, step back, and realize the table is only leaning a little, it feels strangely valuable. Which is odd. In IKEA's classic do-it-yourself model, you collect the box, transport it, and complete the final assembly, work traditional furniture sellers may bundle into the purchase. IKEA still offers paid delivery and assembly, but doing it yourself saves the most money. Yet when the last screw is tightened, the result does not feel unfinished. It feels designed. That is IKEA's real trick. It does not make inexpensive furniture feel valuable by secretly using expensive furniture. Not expensive in materials, and not necessarily better built. Expensive in the way that matters at checkout. It can feel more valuable to you. It turns many cost-saving decisions into deliberate design choices. To understand how, go back to Sweden in the early 1950s. IKEA was still a mail-order furniture seller. Customers saw furniture in a catalog, placed an order, and waited for the product to arrive. But mail-order furniture had a problem. Rival dealers kept undercutting one another. IKEA Museum gives one example. When competitors cut a product from 50 kroner to 45, Ingvar Kamprad went lower, and the cycle continued. Across the price war, quality deteriorated. IKEA saw more complaints and returns, while customers had no way to touch the furniture before ordering. IKEA's solution was not a more dramatic catalog description. On March 30th, 1953, it opened a permanent showroom in Älmhult. Customers could finally sit on the chairs, open the drawers, and decide whether a low price was a bargain or a warning. 5 years later, the larger showroom that became IKEA's first store went further. 2 small furnished apartments let visitors study and try products in a lifelike home setting. That changed the question. Instead of asking, "How can furniture this cheap possibly be good?" IKEA could ask, "How can a room this good possibly be this cheap?" The showroom helped solve the trust problem. The cost problem required a different system. And this is where IKEA's process runs backward. A conventional cost-plus process can design a product first and calculate its price later. IKEA describes its own process differently. The first thing we design is the price tag. The team decides what a product should cost. Then designers, engineers, product developers, sourcing specialists, and suppliers work together inside that limit. They are not simply drawing a beautiful table and asking a factory to make it cheaper. They are redesigning the table, the materials, the joints, the manufacturing process, the package, the warehouse space, and the way the customer takes it home. IKEA does not just design furniture. It designs everything that happens to the furniture before you start arguing with the instruction manual. IKEA calls its framework democratic design. It balances 5 things: form, function, quality, sustainability, and low price. The important word is balance. IKEA says all 5 dimensions matter, but the balance depends on the job each product must do. Low cost comes from the whole system: materials, construction, production, packaging, transport, and customer assembly. One of the most consequential pieces of that system is the flat pack. IKEA did not invent flat pack furniture. IKEA Museum traces earlier examples to the 19th century and a Swedish flat pack series to 1944. But in the early 1950s, a supplier called Ovendals showed Kamprad a sturdy table with a fitting that made home assembly easier. IKEA's 1953 catalog introduced 3 self-assembly tables: Delphi, Riga, and Kuxa. The idea looked like packaging. It was actually a business model. Finished furniture is terrible at being transported. A completed chair has legs pointing into empty space. A completed table is mostly air surrounded by wood. A truck full of finished furniture can also be a truck full of nothing. flatten the product, and much of that wasted volume disappears. More units fit inside a truck. More packages fit inside a warehouse. Products are easier to stack, store, move, and take home. But the biggest change is not the box. The box pushes the product toward a system. Detachable legs, stackable panels, carefully placed fittings, protective packaging, instructions a customer can follow without a technician standing beside them. Furniture, factory, warehouse, vehicle, store, and customer all have to cooperate. The lax side table is a perfect example. According to IKEA Museum, Jan Helzen's first prototype of the thick, chunky table was made from particle board and turned out heavy. When Kamprad asked the price, Helzen and Thomas Paulsen improvised 298 kroner. Ingvar Kamprad wanted a price no higher than 75. So Kamprad told the team to switch to board-on-frame sandwich construction and keep the price under 75. The construction preserved the thick silhouette with a lighter structure and less raw material than a similarly thick, solid table. The table entered the range on the 18th of May 1979 at 78 kroner. It looked like a substantial table. It simply chose not to be substantial in all the expensive places. That philosophy continues in different forms across the range. In its 2025 financial year, IKEA reported that particle board represented approximately half of all wood-based material used in its products. Other products use solid wood, metal, plastic, fiberboard, composites, and combinations designed for a specific job. This does not mean every IKEA product is particle board, and it does not mean every lighter material is automatically worse. It means IKEA constantly asks a specific question. How much material does this product need to perform the job customers expect? Then, in the classic large format store, the customer enters the machine. You walk through the showroom. You note an aisle and rack number. You enter the self-service warehouse. You find the package. You put it on a cart. You take it home. You assemble it. The labor did not disappear. IKEA simply moved the final assembly department to your living room and paid it with one tiny metal key. That lowers cost. But something else happens before you reach the warehouse. IKEA shows you the finished life. In the showroom, the table is not sitting alone under warehouse lights. It is beside a sofa, beneath a lamp, on top of a rug, surrounded by colors that already agree with one another. The room looks lived in, but not too lived in. There are books, but no unpaid bills. There is a kitchen, but nobody has ruined the pan. The furniture is inexpensive. The composition is not. A room setting lets shoppers judge a product as part of a coordinated interior rather than in isolation. A basic shelf becomes part of an organized home office. A simple cabinet becomes part of a calm kitchen. The customer is not only judging boards, hinges, and screws, they are looking at a possible version of home. Then IKEA collapses that entire room back into boxes. And after checkout, you add the final ingredient: your effort. In 2012, researchers Michael Norton, Daniel Mochon, and Dan Ariely published The IKEA Effect: When Labor Leads to Love. Across 4 experiments, participants valued objects they successfully assembled more highly than comparable objects they did not build. In one small experiment with 52 university participants and IKEA storage boxes, builders bid an average of 78 cents for their boxes. Non-builders bid 48 cents. The builders therefore bid about 63% more. That is not proof that every IKEA customer values every finished bookcase 63% more. It was a small laboratory study involving inexpensive objects, not long-term furniture ownership. But the boundary condition is more interesting than the headline. The boost depended on successful completion. Participants who were prevented from finishing, or who built a Lego set and then took it apart again, did not show the same increase in willingness to pay. A finished cabinet becomes my cabinet. A pile of backward panels becomes evidence for the prosecution. Successful assembly can turn a standardized product into a personal achievement. The customer supplies time, effort, and attention. When the build succeeds, it can also create a sense of competence and psychological ownership. The standardized product starts to feel personally earned. This does not make every IKEA product luxury furniture. Paper foil remains paper foil. Particle board remains particle board. Different products are engineered for different uses and price points, and every low-price design contains trade-offs. IKEA itself says the balance among its 5 design dimensions depends on the job the product must do. The strength of the system is not that it hides those compromises. The materials are listed. The boxes are visible. The customer knows assembly is required. IKEA presents the compromises as part of a coherent idea. Simple forms look deliberate. Flat packaging looks efficient. Self-service looks independent. Assembly looks participatory. A low price feels less like something was removed and more like someone was clever. At IKEA's scale, that cleverness compounds. For its 2025 financial year, the year ending 31st August 2025, IKEA reported 44.6 billion euros in global retail sales across its 13 franchisee groups and 915 million store visits. IKEA says lower prices introduced in the previous year contributed to a 2.6% increase in sales volume. A few grams of material, a few centimeters of packaging, or a few seconds of handling may look trivial on one table. Repeat the saving across millions of products, and tiny efficiencies become an empire. So how does IKEA make cheap furniture feel expensive? It does not. Not exactly. In a conventional cost-plus process, price can come after the product is designed. IKEA says its process begins with a target price and forces the rest of the system to work backward. The factory cuts material where it can. The flat pack cuts unused transport volume. Self-service shifts collection and handling to the customer. The showroom adds context, and successful assembly can add pride. The result may not feel luxurious, but it can feel considered, coordinated, personal, valuable. IKEA sells you the pieces. Part of the value is the part you build yourself.